Oh, Westmoreland Community Action was started in 1980. We're the community action agency for Westmoreland County. Community action agencies cover every county, virtually every county in the United States. There's 1,100 nationwide. So we're part of this large group nationwide. We're part of a group in Pennsylvania. But they're designed mostly to serve low-income individuals. So we have about 23 programs that range anywhere from early childhood development, which is your Head Start and early Head Start. We have mental health programs. We have housing programs within mental health that provide stable housing for people that have been diagnosed with mental health issues. We have substance abuse programs now, where we've actually just started a substance abuse helpline. That went live a few months ago, where we can talk to people, give them resources for what to do if they or a loved one have substance abuse problems. We also do things on an emergency basis, where someone can come in and get an emergency box of food. We also do food bank distribution once a month, but if someone needs something in between that month, because that's 4 weeks between a food box, if they're in dire need and they need a food box, they can come in on an emergency basis and get a food box. Along with the emergency services is utility assistance. So someone's electricity is going to be turned off. We can help with that. So we do have programs like that that are immediate, right away. We also have our social enterprise. We started that a few years ago. That's designed to make money, to then funnel money back into the agency so that we don't have to rely on outside funding sources for money, because everything is very tight with foundations and even federal and state monies. Everybody's competing for it. So if we have this source of income right within the organization, that's the whole idea of social enterprise. We do have that. We have housing programs in that we renovate or build from scratch houses for, sometimes it's mixed income neighborhoods, sometimes it's just low income neighborhoods, but it's designed to get people into houses. If they go through our housing counseling program, that kind of gives them information about how to be a homeowner, what to expect in the housing process, just to even get their credit up to speed so that they can buy a house. Since we're a community action agency, there are 43 other agencies in Pennsylvania, just in Pennsylvania, that do kind of the same things we do. Their community action, some of their programs may be a little different, but the whole idea is to serve low-income people. So we kind of consider ourselves not the leaders when it comes to other community action agencies and what we're doing, but we're surely not way in the back of the pack. So we're kind of up near the front of what we do. But I can just truly imagine that, well, everybody would have to do purchase orders. Every other community action agency would have to do authorization for expenses, requests for payments, because we're all audited. Everything is transparent. I mean, most of us are private 501c3s, but our records can be looked at any time. So we do have to be transparent. We always have clean audits. So you have to maintain all the paperwork. So everybody else is just like us in what they have to do. So if you multiply what we do and how much time is spent with papers and scanning and walking around getting signatures, I know virtually every other agency out there is probably doing the same thing. I just can't imagine that there's so many on the cutting edge that they have everything all computerized and they've solved this problem. So, what we're doing and what we're using this program for could definitely be applied into other community action agencies as well. Just in looking at this and seeing the cost savings mapped out as to how much this could possibly save the agency, if you think about it, instead of putting that money towards someone's mileage reimbursement or, just time in the agency of, passing around papers, we're always looking for money to put towards clients and helping and serving more clients. So our goal is always to get our numbers up in terms of how many people we can serve. So if we're not spending as much money on forms and, just even paper and toner, I make copies of things just to have copies of things because I know in a minute's notice I may be, asked to produce it. But just the savings of that's like an administrative budget. That money can go towards, even having an emergency pot of money where people will call us in the dead of winter and say that their furnace went out. It was broken, needs to be replaced. And so those kind of things are a case-by-case basis, but we could have a pot of money where we could help people that need services like that. So the whole idea, the reason we exist, is to serve people. So if we could put that money towards serving people and helping them in their time of need, That's much better than putting it in ink and toner and mileage reimbursement. Since we do everything paper, and I sometimes lose track of what happens to it once it leaves my desk and I'm done with it, but I have seen our storage facility, so everything needs to be kept. Now, we're getting better at scanning, but we still have boxes from years ago that are literally purchase orders, just boxes and boxes of purchase orders for authorization for expenses, because if we, getting audited, we just need to have records of that. So we've gotten a lot better, but it still takes somebody taking that piece of paper and all the attachments with it, and let me tell you, if they're stapled, they have to make sure everything is unstapled, because you throw it in the machine and it jams it all up with staples. So someone has to physically take time to take all that paperwork and scan it. So sometimes we'll have an intern that will do that, but not always. So sometimes it's just a paid staff that has to stand in front of the scanner and literally pull out staples and scan all those documents into a scanning. So we're getting better at scanning, we really are, and we're cutting back on our boxes of paper, but that's still the process that we have to go through, that someone has to physically stand there and we have to pay them to take out staples and scan. That can be very difficult. I mean, we know what we want to order, and sometimes Sue will let us order things ourselves, so we'll call the vendor. But either way, a purchase order has to be filled out, and it has to be as complete as possible with as much information, because they don't like to get it if there's incomplete information. So we have to know exactly what line item has to be charged to, what program to be charged to. And with our department, that's program or marketing, we deal with a lot of different programs, so we're constantly looking up those program numbers, because I don't have them all memorized.
Like somebody that's in a program is going to know that number, but you don't necessarily know that.
Exactly. So I always have to get a piece of paper that has the listing of all the programs, pull that out, look at it, find a line item number too as well. Fiscal was supposed to give that back to us if they're not complete, and I've had sometimes it returned back to me. Sometimes one of the staff will just kind of slide it on there because they know what program I'm looking, or to purchase something for. But we have to do that all correctly, so it does take a lot of looking up. But once I do the purchase order, even if I order the products or don't order the products, I have to get my supervisor to sign off on it. So that entails getting up, putting it physically in his mailbox. Then once he has it, he is usually supposed to send it back to the fiscal department or send it to the fiscal department. But many times he just throws it back in the box of the person who gave it to him. So I wind up getting that purchase order back with his signature on it. And then I will have to then, once I see it in my box, either throw it in the mailbox of the person it goes to in our fiscal department who handles the purchase orders, or actually walk it over to her, depending on if I want to get a little bit of exercise that day. But either way, I'm up out of my chair again to throw this paper somewhere. And we did have an incident not too long ago where we were ordering supplies for a new program we had coming in. So we needed business cards, and we needed little informational cards and posters we had made. So a whole bunch of PR information that I had created and was working with a vendor, but I was doing the POs. So everything was all okay, everything was turned in, but literally 2 or 3 times now, somebody from the fiscal department has come back to me and said, you know that stuff you ordered? Well, we just got it in, but I don't have paperwork to match up to it. And then I'm thinking, I did that paperwork, it went through all the right tracks, I know it, I put it into the mailbox, but it got lost. And that literally happened. So then I've actually gotten smart enough to make a copy, so that's a little bit more expensive. Make a copy of that purchase order.
In case it's going to get lost.
Right, exactly, because it's so much easier to get a copy of that out and have it re-signed than to recreate that whole purchase order again. And me having to look up the program number again, because I don't remember what program number that was that I charged it to. So I have to look that up. So I usually now keep a copy. So Fiscal has come to me and said, we lost that, it just got misplaced somewhere, around. But yeah, I have become smarter by wasting a little bit more paper and making a photocopy of it for myself. I don't scan it, I make a copy of it because I have a folder that has all this information in it. So that's not uncommon. I mean, most purchase orders, once it gets to its destination, they're okay. But yes, I personally have had experience where they get lost. It's just the craziness of paper. I mean, I think lots of times if you have a lot of people handling something, you just don't even realize how much time you're wasting. Like when I have to redo a purchase order, lots of times it'll cut into what I'm doing at the moment because the fiscal person will need it, like right now, because she wants, the package came, she needs the paperwork to order. So if I'm working on something else and I literally have to stop and go and either recreate that purchase order or, because, I mean, the fiscal department helps me a lot too, so when they need something from me, I don't say, well, you know what, I'm working on something, give me a couple hours and I'll get this to you. I know how important it is for them to have that in their hand at that moment. So it's kind of like lost productivity in that I have to stop what I'm doing in the middle of what I'm working on, and I could be thinking or writing something like a grant, and then we have to do that. So I look at it in terms of like just how much you get interrupted or how much you have to stop what you're doing to recreate something you've taken care of. It's off your list of to-do things. You know, I've checked it off, it's gone. So it's that kind of stuff where, you know, you don't even keep track of, okay, now that took me 10 minutes off task to recreate this and give her this paperwork again. And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, how did this get lost? But you can, and it does. I mean, everybody loses paper. Well, we have a lot of fiscal forms that we fill out. So they're kind of all the same in terms of, you know, you need to get them done, you need to have them billed to the right program and line item number. But expanding beyond all fiscal programs, or all fiscal forms, is we do board reports every month. So I know our planning department has to submit a board report, and it goes directly to our CEO. And he gets board reports from every director as well. So I think it would probably save time, and you know, I don't know how exactly he compiles all that to put to the board, but if there was maybe a standard form that we went in, and even if he was able to tweak it for like the planning marketing department versus mental health director, like what exactly he's looking for, but if we were able to fill in fields and just supply information that way, and it's kind of quicker for us. I mean, I know I kind of have my own template, but I in no way have ever looked at anybody else's to see if the templates are the same. And I'm sure even the fonts are very different. And you know, I don't know how picky it is for the board, but they have to read a lot of information before they even get to the board meeting. They're expected to read these things and go over them. And then I know some of the directors then have reports to them from supervisors of the program, so they could even do the same thing. So it might save time even, because instead of me trying to figure out what all does somebody want to see, and maybe I'm putting in too much, because you know, there's times I just add stuff that I think might be helpful. If it's kind of short and succinct and this is what I'm looking for, you just kind of put it in there and you're done for the month, and it helps everybody. It helps me, it helps the CEO, it helps the directors, it helps board members, and it's a little more succinct. We always have a spreadsheet of proposals that are going out, and in what stage they're in. We have either proposals that are pending because they're out there waiting to get approval from the funding source. Then we have mixed in there like the proposals that have been approved already that the board needs to see, and then the ones that have been denied. Right now we keep them in an Excel spreadsheet, and we literally have them in order of when we submitted them, so they're always in time order with the most recent at the bottom. As they become approved or denied, we'll just make a note off to the side of those, and then after 1 month of the board seeing that or our CEO seeing that, we will delete that whole entire line. So it's a constantly, every month, it's a document that just keeps growing and changing, but it's the same document. But to have those all in one place would be nice, because we always then try to, anytime a proposal is approved, I mark that note, that's so the board can see it. But then just from our department standpoint, we want to keep track of all the approved proposals, just to keep a running total of the amounts, just who they were from. So we have to then literally go in and copy and paste the line in Excel that says approved, like all the information about that proposal, and copy it into another file that we have running that's just approved proposals. So that's how we keep track. And if we forget to take that line and copy and paste it into this other file, then we kind of lost that one off of our approved list. And that way, if anybody ever wants to go back and look at what kind of proposals have you had approved, you know, we have this whole list, we have the dollar amounts, who it was to, and, you know, so it's kind of a multi-step process. But if we have one place where we could just put in, these are the ones that are pending, these are the ones that have been approved, and these are the ones that have been denied, somehow it just feels like it would be more organized. But we thought an Excel spreadsheet, because I like Excel, I like things organized, but that was kind of the way we thought to set it up. Because right now they're just you have to look and find the word approved among all the pending and denies, because we literally keep them in chronological order. We just keep tacking them on to the bottom. And of course, ones that have been pending for 6, 8, 12 months that we haven't heard anything on, we just delete. In a year's time, we could probably put out 60 proposals. I mean, maybe some of them are very small, some are very big and take us weeks to do. But overall, I mean, 60 probably isn't a bad number, and that's what we have to keep track of all the time. And it's not necessarily the neatest, you know, board members have to go down through, and even our CFO, well, this one was approved, this one was approved, this one was denied, okay, those are all pending. Because that's the way I don't sort them any other way than chronological. Because many times too, they want to see, well, what are the latest ones you've worked on? What are the ones we didn't see from last month that you've worked on and submitted since the last time we met? So that's how we do that. But yeah, with all the proposals we put out in a year's time, and that would just organize it so much better. And anybody could access that. Because I could see, yes, our CEO and our CFO, because he always needs a list of the proposals in and out, and so he could easily access that and just see what's hanging out there. What did we ever get that $250,000 grant that we were kind of counting on? You know, did it ever come in? So
Beautiful.
Our organization is fairly large. We have our main office here in Greensburg, and we have a couple satellite offices in Greensburg, but they're a few miles away, a couple miles away. We also have Head Start centers that they encompass the whole county, so they're spread out everywhere, which is the whole purpose, so we could serve the whole county. We also have a social enterprise in Mount Pleasant. So any type of paperwork that needs to be signed can't just be faxed. For some reason, we have to see original signatures, I guess. So it's interesting in that all that paperwork needs to be brought to the main office. Now, I know a lot of staff, if they're coming for something else anyway, they'll bring their forms or mileage reimbursements or whatever. But there's times when, let's say a Head Start staff has a mileage reimbursement form that they need to turn in, and they drive it to the main office, but then they're charging mileage because they had to drive to the main office to drop off their mileage sheet. So then they will put that on another mileage sheet later. Maybe they collect them monthly, and then that month. So it's like a never-ending cycle that they are charging mileage, so it costs the agency money to bring this to this other location, because everything has to come to our main office in Greensburg. No paperwork is handled outside of this main office. So eventually every single piece of paperwork has to make its way here. Now, I know some things can be faxed. I think there are some timesheets that can be faxed, paper timesheets, but when it comes to any kind of form, mileage, or an authorization for expense, it literally has to be driven here. And when you count how many miles that wastes and money that wastes in bringing a piece of paper to be signed, that can be a little crazy.